This is Babylon. Babylon was a massive city. This thing here is the river Euphrates. You know there was 4 big rivers in Genesis? The Pison, the Gihon, the Tigris, and the Euphrates. Today there are 2 rivers that are still called by those same names, the Tigris and the Euphrates. It's a massive river. They say that this city could withstand a 20-year siege. What's a siege? It's when you have a city and you surround the supply routes and you cut it off so no supplies can come in and out. But they said that if they did that for Babylon for 20 years, no one would be able to get into it. Because they have the whole river. Like, they don't care if an army's around them. We got fresh water, we got food, we got crops, we're fine. Babylon was, it was called one of the wonders of the ancient world. This is the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. This is an illustration. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon was, okay, we talked about Iraq earlier, right? Iraq is where Babylon is today. Is Iraq, what climate is it in? It's desert. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon was a tropical paradise suspended above the desert floor. This was a gift to one of King Nebuchadnezzar's wives. Now, he had more than one wife, but this was a rich city. This was called one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. I'll go back to later. The walls of the city were so thick that 2 chariots could race side by side on top of the wall. You've seen walls today, right? Like, have any of you been to China and seen the Great Wall of China? Okay, I was actually on the Great Wall of China, and you can fit 1 car on it, but not 2. But the walls of the city were double the thickness of the Great Wall of China. The gates of the city were 60 feet tall, made of solid brass. I want you to think that, like, this room is about 10 feet tall, okay? Like, the ceiling is lowered, but every floor is 10 feet, okay? So 60 feet means 6 stories tall, right? Now, when they say solid brass, where do you make something like that? You need a really big furnace in order to make doors 60 feet tall of solid brass. Do you ever hear about a giant furnace in Daniel that people got thrown into? That's Daniel chapter 6, if you haven't seen it. But these are massive doors. The Babylonians worshipped the sun. They had 2 temples, 60 miles in circumference. Let me pause for a second. So, how many degrees in a circle? 360. You know where that comes from? Babylon. Babylon used the sexagesimal system, which is base 60. And we use Babylonian stuff today. We follow this thing called New Year's Day, right? The first New Year's was celebrated in Babylon. How many seconds in a minute? 60. How many minutes in an hour? 60, right? The base 60 that we have is from Babylon. They worship the sun, and they tell time by the sun. We know 365 days, right? For the earth to go around the sun, that's why they did New Year's Day, because they were worshiping the sun. So they had 2 temples that were 60 miles in circumference. Is that a big temple or a small temple? I don't know how long it takes to run around this church. How long do you think it takes to go around the whole church? 10 minutes? All right, just for comparison, all right? So I put Target in Mall 205, if you know where Mall 205 is, to OMSI. That's 6 miles. Okay, I just picked a random thing. So to walk from Target to OMSI, to walk is a while, right? If you had to do that 10 times, you've gone around their church once. Is that a big temple?
Yes.
That's massive.
That's the original mega church.
That's the original mega church. And they were there for the sun. So, we talked about the Euphrates River. I talked about that. Sorry, this is me sharing before. Babylon can withstand a siege of 20 years. So Daniel goes up to Nebuchadnezzar and he says, "You, O king, are a king of kings. For the God of heaven has given you a kingdom, power, strength, and glory. And wherever the children of men dwell, or the beasts of the field or the birds of the air, he has given them into your hand, and has made you over them all, you are this head of gold. And like, that's a statement. But Babylon was one of the biggest and best empires that this world has ever seen. That's why Saddam Hussein wanted to be, that's why he idolized Nebuchadnezzar. Verse 39. But, Daniel 2 verse 39. But, after you will arise another kingdom inferior to yours. What? Why would that happen? Then another kingdom, a kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over all the earth. So Babylon, this massive city, fell down in one night. What happened? Well, there were these two countries. There was the Medes and the Persians. And they decided to join forces and attack the Babylonian Empire. And what they did is they had their army dig an artificial lake. And they diverted the entire Euphrates River into the lake. And they went in through the river gate. Somebody had left the gate unlocked. They went in and they killed all the nobles, and in one night, Babylon fell. In Revelation, if we get to this later, or if you study it, you're going to find that there is the drying up of the river Euphrates in spiritual terms in Revelation to prepare the way for a rescue operation from the east, which is exactly what happened here, and which is exactly what Christ is going to do later on. But we'll come to that later. So Babylon fell in one night. There was writing on the wall. It said, Mene, Mene, Tekel Upharsin. Mene, God has numbered your kingdom and finished it. Tekel, you have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Peres, your kingdom has been divided, and he has been given to the Medes and the Persians. And so Babylon fell in one night. So let's break this down. The image's head was the fine gold, and we know this is what? Babylon. The chest and arms of silver was the Medes and the Persians. The next thing, its belly and its thighs were of bronze. So after you, a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over the entire earth. So this was the guy who was leading Greece. His name was Alexander the Great. And how old was he? 25 years old. Some people think, oh, that's really old. Some people are like, no, that's a really young guy.
No.
It depends on the audience I'm with, right? If I'm with a bunch of teenagers, oh, he's old. But no, he was 25 years old, and he conquered most of the known world. You notice how like Babylon was up to here, right? But Greece stretched all the way down to the east. They said, let's step back. They said that when he got all the way to the edge of the east, he cried because there was nothing left to conquer. So how did he die, right? What happened to him? Well, have any of you seen this before? This is the Stanley Cup. Do you know what sport this is from?
Ice hockey.
Ice hockey, good. Some people know what it is. So on top of it, and you're going to see this everywhere, on top of it is called the Cup of Hercules, right? And that's that little trophy that you see everywhere. This is 1 liter. 1 liter. They say that Alexander the Great did one of two dumb things. Number one, they said that he drank this entire thing of 100% proof alcohol twice in one night, and he died of alcohol poisoning. Or he got bitten by a mosquito and he died of something related to the mosquito. But, I said that, alcohol poisoning and bitten by a mosquito. He didn't leave any heirs. His generals fought over who was going to take control. We'll cover that a little bit later. But the Greek Empire was not conquered by somebody else. Alexander died. And another empire rose. So the third empire, we went to Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece was next. The fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, inasmuch as iron breaks in pieces and shatters everything. And like iron that crushes, that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all the others. So this is iron and bronze. If you take an iron sword and a bronze sword and you were to hit them together, what would happen? Which one would win?
The iron sword.
Iron. Iron will cut through bronze like butter. And the Romans had iron, and they used that to their advantage. They had this thing, in French this is called la tortue, the turtle, and these are called tower shields. They had tower shields there, tower shields on top and behind, and they would use spears, and they would march forward like that. Now, why do they put shields on top? To protect against?
Volleys.
Arrows, volleys of arrows, right? They use this with the iron they have to go and plow through every single one of the bronze weapons and armor. And so they conquered everybody and nothing could stop them. So iron crushed everything. The Roman Empire expanded super far out. That's the greatest extent in AD 117. So Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and then Rome. Right? When you saw the feet and toes, now let's go to the feet and toes, the bottom part of it. Where you saw the feet and toes, partially of potter's clay and partially of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. Yet the strength of iron shall be in it, just as you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay. And as you saw that the feet and the toes were partly of iron and partly of clay, the kingdom will be partly strong and partly fragile. And as you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle themselves with the what? With the seed of men. But they will not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. So, this was the Roman Empire. And something happened to the Roman Empire. It fell. But it didn't fall in one night. What happened is there were these tribes that started attacking them from the north. And they were vicious. And the Romans couldn't understand what they were saying. They heard them say, bar, 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 bar. And they called them barbarians. And they started overcoming places. And so the Anglo-Saxons, they attacked and they settled in a place that today is called England. The Franks attacked and settled in a place called France. There you go. The Alemanni settled here. The Lombards here. The Burgundians, the Visigoths, the Spain, the Suevi. They took over a lot of the major divisions of Europe today. This is how it was divided into 10. 3 of them got wiped out by the papacy. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. So Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and divided Europe. That's the iron and clay. I'm going to come back to this if you have a little bit extra time, and I'll show you something extra. But I'll come back to that. As you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of men. In Canada, in May, we have a day off on the third Monday. It's called Queen Victoria Day. I don't know if you celebrate that in North America, in the United States, but Queen Victoria is famous. If you went to Denmark, she was a matchmaker for a lot of the countries. And she decided, you know what, she married off Denmark, right? This is Denmark, this is the Queen of Sweden, the King of Sweden, King of Norway, King of Spain, the Princess of Prussia. Do you see how these are from different nations? She's like, you know what, if I marry my daughters and my nephews and my nieces to each other, we're going to stop the fighting. Did that stop?
No.
That did not. It says, but they will not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. These people tried to unite Europe also. Who's this guy? Hitler. He tried to unite all of Europe under the Third Kingdom, the Third Reich in German. Did Hitler succeed?
No.
No. This is Charlemagne. He tried to unite all of Europe. This is who? Napoleon, right? He's from where? He's from France, right? This is the United Nations. The United Nations try to have all of Europe together. Is the United Nations, does that all of Europe?
No.
It's not, right? They tried to get all the nations to adopt the euro. Did that happen?
No.
It didn't happen. They tried to unite Europe. The Bible says they will try to adhere to one another, but iron does not mix with clay. They will not succeed. A few years ago, I read this book. This is the true story of this guy named Frank Hazel. This is by Susie Hazelmundy. This is his, I forget if it's his daughter or I think it's his granddaughter. But this is the true story. He was a Seventh-day Adventist colporteur, so he's a guy that sold books. And he was working in Germany when they were conscripting for the Nazis. And he got conscripted to work as a sharpshooter among the ranks of the Nazis. Now, one thing you should know about Seventh-day Adventists is that Seventh-day Adventists don't eat what? We don't eat pork, and don't and keep the what day holy?
Sabbath.
The Sabbath day, right? Now, if you are in the Nazi army and you are not eating, and they're going against the Jewish people, and you are not eating pork, and you are trying to keep the Sabbath holy, how dangerous is that? That's pretty dangerous, right? he also made a commitment with God. He's like, I'm not going to actually shoot anybody. And so he didn't actually shoot anybody during the war. This you can read about this in this book. I'm not going to spoil the book for you. But I want to tell you a story that happened in it. So one day he gets a knock at his door. And they said, Herr Hazel, or Mr. Hazel, our commanding officer wants to see you. And he's like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? So he goes to the commanding officer and he says, sir, you wanted to see me? And he said, yes, we have heard that you are speaking treason. We heard people say that you don't believe Hitler will win the war. Where are you getting this from? And he's like, oh, I can show you that. It's from my Bible. The commanding officer's like, what? I study the Bible. I'm a Christian. What are you talking about? And he opens it. He's like, come, let me show you. He opens it to Daniel chapter 2. And he goes through this same prophecy. And he says, you see this? It says, they will not adhere to one another. Hitler will not unite. God said it in the Bible. The commanding officer said, I need to think about this. You may go. Nothing happened, and for 2 weeks, am I in trouble? Did something happen? What's going to happen to me? And then he hears another knock at his door, and they say, hey, the commanding officer wants to see you again. And he goes back the second time, and he's there, but there's 2 other people in the room. And they're dressed pretty nicely. And the commanding officer says, Frank, I want you to tell me the same story again. Say it the exact same way. Don't leave anything out. I want these 2 men to hear your story too. He's like, God, please help me to know what to say. And he goes through Daniel 2 a second time. And at the end, the commanding officer looks at the guy on his right, and the guy nods. He looks at the guy on his left, and that guy nods. And the commanding officer steps up, and he says, Frank, I believe you've just saved my life. I believe you. I believe God. I don't think Hitler is going to win the war. The guy on my right, he was a history teacher before the war. He said everything you said matches in history. The guy on my left was a librarian that taught history. He also said everything you said was true. What you taught from Daniel 2 and from the Bible, I believe. I don't think Hitler's going to win the war. The Germans lost the war when they attacked Russia in winter. Do you remember studying this in World War II? Some people remember vaguely. All right. The Germans attacked Russia in the winter, and what happened is as they were going out and as they were trying to leave, their cars wouldn't start. They had to warm up the cars longer, and they kept running out of gasoline, out of petrol. And so what happened is the commanding officers decided, if Hitler's not going to win the war, I'm going to make sure I have enough gas reserves. And so at every stop, he kept a little extra gas, And out of the 1,000-person regiment that they had, only 9 people survived coming out of the war from Russia. One of them was Frank Hazel. One of the others was his commanding officer. This story comes out because there were some of the 9 survivors. They came out because of it. Because they got stuck in Russia. The Bible says at the end of Daniel, in the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which will never be destroyed. Again, Daniel's convicted. This is your dream. This will happen. You are the head of gold. In the days of these kings, in the days when Europe is still divided, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. Historically, if we follow this, where are we today? Is Europe united?
No.
Europe is not united. So we're not at the head of gold, the chest and arms. We're still at the feet, and we're still ready for this meteor, the toes to come and hit. The kingdom shall not be left to other people. It shall break in pieces, consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Inasmuch as you saw the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God has made known to the king what will come to pass after this. And then he adds this. He says, the dream is certain. The interpretation is sure. Do you remember in Genesis, way back when there was a guy named Joseph?
Yeah.
And the Pharaoh had dreams, and he's like, what do these dreams mean? And Daniel said, Joseph interpreted the dreams. And Joseph was convicted. He knew what it was. The dream is certain, the interpretation is sure. Gold, silver, bronze, iron and clay. This has divided Europe until the return of Christ. That's where we are today. The king answered Daniel and said, "Truly your God is a God of gods, the Lord of kings and a revealer of secrets, since you can reveal this secret." I want to ask you, this sparked my interest in Bible study. I was not interested in becoming Christian. I was interested in prophecy. I was interested in the future. And what we're doing for these next 3 days and what we're going to do for the next week is to do a refresher on prophecy, on what the Bible teaches about what is to come, like what happened in the past and what's going to happen in the future. If God is faithful and if the stuff in the past was properly predicted, wouldn't the future be exciting to know about what God has planned for what's to come? We look at what's going on in the world and things are crazy, right? We think the weather's crazy. I don't need to say that, right? Have we had snow yet? Maybe today? We're still waiting for it. This is winter, right? It felt like we saw daffodils a few days ago coming out. What is going on in America with the way that people are fighting over stuff? You know, it doesn't feel like America that's the land of the free. You look at what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. You look at what's going on with Gaza. You look at, I can list a lot of things. There's a lot of things going on. My question for you, this is my challenge tonight, are you willing to tell God you trust Him and that you would like to know more about Him and His plan for your life? Amen? Amen? Amen. I'm going to be doing this.